Hey Curio friends, today we are working on the Among Us paint kit. After you pick up your kit from CURIO, make sure you flip it over. This is the Among Us kit that has the colors of orange and blue. You can open this up and save this paper as your messy map. Get everything ready that you need to paint with. All the paints and brushes are there. The only thing you need to add is water and a paper towel. So get yourself ready and I'll walk you through how to make this amazing Among Us character. So if you pick up your kit from CURIO, on your canvas you'll find your Among Us character already drawn on. For the tutorials, I use a piece of paper, but you have a canvas, so make sure that you're painting the sides as you keep working. So the Among Us character is able to have custom chosen colors, and we decided today to do the tutorial with the colors of blue and orange, because blue is my favorite color. So the colors that we chose for the kits are complementary colors. They make each other stand out. So if you have the purple kit, you have purple and yellow, and if you have the red kit, you have red and green. And you can choose which way you want to use those colors. So while I might be talking about different colors, everyone's project and tutorial is still the same, but you can choose to use different colors in different spaces. All right, let's get ready to go. So the first thing that we're going to do is start with our background. And this is where you make your first choice. You can decide if you want your character to be blue, green, red, purple, whatever color you want for your character, you're gonna save that for your character. The other color, that's gonna be your background. So one color choice is for your character, the other color choice is for your background. I'm going to do my character blue. I'm going to do my background orange. So I'm going to start with my lighter background color. Since I'm doing orange, I see that I have a lighter color back here. If I was doing my background blue, I'm going to pick my lighter color of blue. And that kind of goes so forth. If you're doing purple, your lighter color of purple, your lighter color of green. And I'm going to start with my little brush because what I'm going to do first is outline. So I'm going to take my lighter background color, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I'm holding it like a pencil, and I'm going to trace all the way around my character. This kind of shows me where I'm going to be stopping. This is my barrier that shows me where I'm going to be making sure I switch my colors because I'm entering into a different part of the painting. We want to try to make sure that we're not getting big, huge globs, so you can feel free to smooth out some big, yucky, globby parts. And you want to be careful that you have enough paint. You don't want to have such little paint that you're kind of trying to scratch and drag paint off of your brush. You want to find that happy balance between both of them. I always outline my things first because I think it makes it easier to be able to paint in the bigger areas. And you can feel free, if I'm going too fast for you, you can pause. If I'm going too slow, I don't think I am because great work takes time, but if you think I'm going too slow, you can always fast forward it also. So my background is the area behind my main character. So now that I outlined all of my background, I can paint in the rest of my project. And I'm gonna switch to my larger brush. I used my smaller brush to outline. I'm gonna switch to my larger one. I can put this in my water so it doesn't dry out. And you have many options for the background. Holy moly, many options. I show this a lot in my videos where I like to mix colors together for my background. So I like to use this wider square brush, and I like to do the light color and without washing my brush, and while this is still wet, I add in a little bit of my darker color for the background because I think it makes it look like it kind of has an atmosphere to it. It makes it look like there's some cool stuff going on. So I have this lighter color orange that I'm using first with my big brush, and then I'm introducing some of this darker orange without even washing my brush just to make it look more interesting. And let me be clear that you do not have to do that. We're using opposite colors on the color wheel because they make each other stand out. So because my character's blue, You have orange in your kit because those colors make each other really stand out and really nice and bright together. But this does not have to be how you have to do your background. I'll show you a few different examples here of things you can do. So let's say I wanted to make it really exciting, maybe even dynamic looking, and kind of give it this look of like explosion. I could do something like this with my round brush or my square brush. Doesn't matter to you, whichever one you like better. I always try to use the bigger brush when I can, but I could do something like this where I'm going to just paint these lines that come out, and I'm gonna kind of angle them like this so that it helps to look like explosions. And in between those light lines, I'm gonna go ahead and do the darker color. And that kind of makes a really cool effect too. Gives it something kind of different, kind of neat. Kind of gives it this cool stripe, like awesomeness. Ta-da! This is amazing. So I could do something like that for my background. I could do something where I just choose to paint my whole background with the light color. That's totally fine. This is your painting. I'm just giving you options and doing examples of different things that come to my mind, but you are so creative, I'm sure you can come up with many different ideas and options yourself too. You could even do something where you keep it this empty color, or you could do something where maybe you're gonna do cool swirls in the background with the drying. Maybe you're gonna do polka dots and paint those in if you want to. There are so many different things you could do. You could even paint stripes on top of this when you're done, but hopefully that gives you some examples of what you might wanna do for your project for the background, because there are so many cool things you can do. It's almost overwhelming, which is really neat. So once you do the background, you can wait for your project to dry so that you don't mix colors together. You could absolutely ask permission to use a hairdryer to speed up the process a little bit, or you could always just continue moving on and just try to be careful that you don't bump your colors together. So our character has two colors to it because one area is shadow and one area is a little bit lighter. So what we're gonna do first, I always like to work lightest to darkest when I can. So the background was one color. We're gonna switch over to the different color. So now, like I said, I'm gonna do my character in blue. So I am going to use my lighter blue, lighter purple, light green, light red, whatever your lighter color is in the mixture. I'm gonna do my lighter color first, and you're going to outline. That way we know where to stop. We kind of went over that a little bit in the beginning. And if you're noticing, I like to actually turn my project when I'm working because I don't like to work on top of areas that are super wet and soggy. That's when I accidentally smear stuff and get it on my arms, smear my project, get it in spots that I didn't want it to go in. So now that I've outlined that, I can paint it in. I'm gonna switch over to my larger brush again. And we made this lighter blue for you so that it nicely matches our darker blue. We picked colors that look really nice together. And if you have extra color in your paint pods, you can always use it for other projects. This is great paint. It's permanent, it's professional paint, so you can use it on another canvas if you want to, on paper. I know outside in the summertime, if my kids are allowed to, they can paint rocks with it. You know, just don't paint stuff you're not supposed to with it. Make sure you ask your family members what you're allowed to use. I'm not gonna wash this brush out because I'm gonna be using it again. So this is my kind of lighter area, my highlight, the lighter area of my character. And this is also going to be a highlight and lighter area also. This is kind of like the top part of the back piece. I'm gonna color that in. Oh, I could have switched to that brush, but I chose just to paint it in with my round brush. These brushes are totally for you to use in whatever order you think is best to use them. And like I said, I always like to use the bigger brush for bigger spots and the smaller brush for smaller spots. All right, so now we're gonna work on the area that has a little bit more shadow, or kind of the main part of the project. And again, I always like to outline. Kind of gives me a good idea of where to stop and start. Kind of helps you with not getting confused on where your color changes. Sometimes when people work on artwork, they like to talk to a friend close by or listen to some music, and sometimes you can forget where you're painting. So this just kind of helps you to remember where you're going. Really nice bright blue. And then we're going to continue this same color, even though there's kind of a line right here. We're gonna go ahead and continue this color back here too. And we can always put a line in a little bit later to kind of show the difference between the two. But you don't have to. I'll give you some options at the end here too for things that you can and don't have to do. Of course, everything I'm saying is just suggestion. This is how I would teach you to go through it if you were actually here in my space in the studio, which you can absolutely do that. We actually got the idea for the Among Us kit because of a birthday party. Someone wanted to do an Among Us character, and we were like, that is so awesome, let's make it into a kit. So we do all different kinds of classes in our space too. If you're far away from Pittsburgh area, then you might have to just stick with tutorials, but if you're close by, you could always come to Zillionopal and take a class with us too. Really make sure you're smoothing out those big globs, especially because if you have big globs on there, it just kind of is wasted paint. You could use that for other stuff too. All right. So now that I have my blue done, I'm gonna actually switch over and we're gonna do kind of this visor part on the inside. So first we wanna make sure that our brushes are really clean. And if you want to, you could watch my tutorial on cleaning out brushes and washing them to make sure that you have nice clean brushes each time. But the main thing is that you wanna make sure that you take your brush, plunk it against the bottom of your container or cup, give it a good little swish back and forth, and then make sure you dry it. If you don't, your paint gets really thin from water and sometimes it oozes and doesn't actually nicely stay. So we're gonna do value. We have 3 different shades that we're gonna do in here to kind of show the different areas of kind of the mask visor space, like even an astronaut would wear. So this first part, we're gonna use our white, and that inside circle is gonna be straight up white inside here. And I know that it always seems silly to paint white on top of a white canvas, but if you don't paint it, it just looks unfinished. Our paint is acrylic, it has a nice shine to it. So if you don't paint it in, it just looks empty. So we do want to paint that in even though it's white so that it looks finished and has a nice shine to it. So we're gonna do a little bit of color mixing. So we're gonna take this white, I'm gonna take a little scoop of it. You have a palette in your kit that maybe you didn't even use it until this point in time, but you would definitely want to use your palette now, or if you want to save it for something else, you could use a paper plate like I am. So we're gonna do some little piles here. I'm gonna do a little area of white over here, and I'm gonna do, let me see, I'll put it right beside. I'm gonna do a second area of white over here. We wanna make gray. So we have white, and then we're going to add black to it. Anytime you add white to something, it makes it lighter. Anytime you add black to something, it makes it darker. Black is obviously really, really dark. There's a lot of pigment in there. So you only need a tiny bit, like a ridiculously little amount, like, boop, that's good, just a little bit, ridiculously tiny, not a big, huge scoop, just a little bit. And I'm gonna take this black, and I'm gonna start to mix it into one of my piles of white. And it is already starting to turn gray. We wanna keep it really, really light gray. And maybe you added too much black and it's like, whoa, really, really dark gray. So you might want to start over. You might want to try to mix a lighter gray again. So if we know that this much made it look like this, I want this to be a little bit darker. I want a light gray and a medium gray. So I'm gonna take a little bit more and mix it into this pile, and it should be a little bit darker of a gray because I added more black. The more black you add, the darker it'll get. So you need two grays. You need a light gray and a medium gray. So what we have is 3 different values. We have white, a little bit darker white, even darker white. So white, light gray, medium gray. If you want to make these a little bit darker, then you would add a little more black in very small amounts so that you can control it. If you want it to be a little bit lighter, then you could add a little bit of white, but it's always harder to make a color lighter once you've added a lot of black to it or a lot of dark color to it. I'm gonna take some of this that was in the middle and I'm gonna mix it into this lighter color. So you just wanna be able to see the difference, something that's lighter and something that's darker. So we're gonna be showing kind of the difference between, like, this is the area where light's hitting, and then this is a little bit more of a medium color and a little bit darker. So I'm gonna take the lighter gray I made, still outlining, big outliner. I accidentally picked up a little bit of blue. This must have been wet in a little bit of that spot. And that's okay. If that happens to you, you can just roll with it, because if the light was actually reflecting off of this, some of the light would be reflecting the color from your Among Us character too. So that's okay if it happens to be a little bit of blue. I actually like how that just went into that one spot. Sweet. It's kind of like I planned on it. Happy little accident, like Bob Ross likes to say. Okay, now I'm gonna take my even darker gray, and I'm not even washing my brush in between because they're very similar in color. So I'm gonna take this darker gray, and I'm gonna do this one next. And we just want it to be kind of a little bit of a difference. If something accidentally gets too dark or if it's too light, this paint is actually, you can layer with it. So you could absolutely let this dry or dry it with a hair dryer, and you could paint on top of it again to kind of change it if something happened and you didn't like the way it went. Okay, sweet. So now I have kind of the visor done. So I have one last step that I like to do with a lot of my paintings. It's not at all something that you have to do, but you can. I like to outline stuff. I like to see just that kind of pop of making it kind of stand out a little bit more. And we just talked about mixing some colors, so I outline stuff in black, but if you want to, you could actually take your darkest color. I'm gonna do my character, so I could take my dark color for my character, and I could add some black to it, and instead of outlining in just black, now I'm actually outlining in a very, very, very dark blue, which is kind of cool too. So I'm going to, normally I like to wait until my project dries so that I can put my hands on it and not worry about it smearing, but I'm going to start outlining. I'm gonna start on the inside, and I do spin my canvas and my paper a lot when I outline so that I can make sure I'm always close by to where the brush is gonna be and where I'm going. So it just makes it easier, gives you more control. Sometimes people get really nervous about doing this part. You could always ask a grown-up to do it for you, but come on, you can do it. You could also, if you have a Sharpie or a permanent marker at home, you could wait for this to dry really, really well, like overnight, wait for it to dry, and you could take a Sharpie and you could go back over it if you want to the next day with a Sharpie. You don't have to do outlines here. Like I said, I'm kind of showing you stuff that I do, but you're not me, I'm my own person. So you can choose to do things that I'm doing. You can choose to finish it in your own way. But I'm going to kind of do this outlining all around my character so that it stands out really well. And this was where I was talking about adding that line back in. Sorry, I know sometimes this is upside down, but you can add a line in between these two pieces so that they stand out a little bit, and it adds a little bit more definition to it. And you could also choose to add tons of really cool details to your project. So let's say that let's say you love polka dots. Polka dots are kind of in right now. I know my daughter loves to wear like polka dotted pants, and she has like a sweatshirt that has polka dots on it. So if you want to, your picture could be done just like this. This was my other example. So your project can be done. Let's say at home you're a big crafter. You could put something like, I had put a little bit of glitter on top of here for our birthday party to make it look shiny. But if you want to add stuff to your project, you can totally do that. Let's say you want to add some polka dots to it. Well, I could even, if I want to, I could take this lighter color and I could add some polka dots into it. I could make it striped. I could add my white and my light blue together, and I could make a really cool light blue, and I could add polka dots with a different shade. If you have a Q-tip at home, it is awesome for polka dots. Or like I said, you could do stripes. You could even choose to do kind of a swirled thing. Whatever you think of, wherever your mind takes you, whatever you want to do to make this awesome and make it as creative as you want it to be, then definitely do it. This is just kind of a guiding point, and you can make it as creative and exciting as you want to, because after all, it's your piece of art. So once you finish it up, I'd love to see it. Make sure you post it on Facebook or Instagram and tag us at CURIO Cool so we can see your awesome artwork. It's always really cool to do it with friends, so make sure you let other people know, and you guys can even have them at home together and do it with some friends that are close by. Maybe sometime we'll see you soon at the art studio, but if you have any questions or you want to see any cool events that are happening, then visit curiocool.com for more info.